It was a time of war. On one side of the valley of Elah the Israelites stood ready, led by King Saul, fearful but prepared. Across from them their enemies, the Philistines, amassed in strength. But among the Philistines stood one figure that made even the bravest tremble, Goliath of Gath. Goliath was a giant, towering over 9 feet tall, his presence as fierce as his strength. Each day he would step forward, his voice booming across the valley.
Why have you come out to line up for battle? Am I not a Philistine, and are you not servants of Saul? Choose a man to fight me. If he kills me, we will be your servants. But if I prevail, you will serve us.
Day after day for 40 days Goliath taunted them, and day after day the Israelites quaked in silence. There was no man among them brave enough to face this mighty foe. Far from the battlefield, in the hills of Bethlehem, there was a young shepherd named David. He was not a soldier, nor was he mighty in stature, but he was strong in spirit and filled with faith in the God of Israel. One day, David's father Jesse called him and sent him to the battlefield with food for his brothers, who were soldiers in King Saul's army. So, with bread and cheese, David journeyed to the valley of Elah. As David arrived, he heard the voice of Goliath booming across the valley.
Choose a man to fight me.
The giant taunted, his laughter echoing off the rocks. David looked around and saw fear in every face. He turned to those near him.
Why does no one stand up to him? Who is this Philistine who dares to defy the armies of the living God?
Word of David's courage reached King Saul, and the young shepherd was brought before him. David bowed, then raised his eyes to the king.
Let no one lose heart on account of this Philistine. I, your servant, will go and fight him.
King Saul studied David, his eyes filled with doubt.
You are but a youth, and he has been a warrior since his youth. How can you stand against him?
When I kept my father's sheep, a lion came and a bear, and I struck them both down. The Lord who saved me from the paw of the lion and the bear will deliver me from this Philistine.
Saul was moved by David's faith. He offered his own armor to David, but when the young shepherd tried it on, he found it too heavy, too cumbersome. David set it aside, choosing instead his staff, his sling, and 5 smooth stones from a nearby brook. As David walked into the valley, Goliath's laughter rang out once more. He looked down upon David and sneered.
Am I a dog, that you come to me with sticks? He mocked. Come here, and I will feed your flesh to the birds and the beasts.
But David was undeterred. He stood firm, his eyes steady, his voice clear.
You come against me with sword and spear, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. Today the Lord will deliver you into my hands, and all the world will know there is a God in Israel.
In that moment, David reached into his pouch, took out a stone and placed it in his sling. With a single swift motion, he let it fly. The stone whistled through the air, guided by unseen hands, and struck Goliath squarely in the forehead. The giant staggered, his mocking laughter silenced, and then with a great crash he fell face down upon the ground. The Philistines gasped in shock, and the Israelites looked on in awe. With the fall of their champion, the Philistine army broke into chaos and fled, pursued by the Israelites. Victory belonged to Israel, not because of weapons or numbers, but because of faith in a God who delivers. And so it was that a shepherd boy, armed with nothing but a sling, defeated a giant. David showed that the true power does not lie in strength or might, but in a heart filled with faith and trust in God. This is the story of David and Goliath, a story of courage, faith, and the power of God to use even the smallest among us to achieve the greatest of victories.